the first thing they said was, look, we want fried chicken. And then the other thing was you have an option between air conditioning or 2 televisions.
They picked TVs.
And they picked 2 televisions, one for sports, one for movies, and fried chicken.
Is that how the 2 TVs got in each?
That's how the 2 TVs. That's how we got. It was either you're gonna get 2 televisions.
They set up like this.
Yeah, or you can get air conditioning in a dorm.
Oh man.
And they chose the 2 televisions. The thing I wasn't prepared for in going to prison was, really going in, people tell you, don't drop the soap. Don't
face the wall.
Night, keep your butthole tight.
There's this big old guy named Larry who's going to just,
Oh, you talking about Big Larry?
Yeah, something like that, right?
We actually had a Big Larry.
We did. But
It's a big old dude.
Or somebody's going to have like a switchblade, a shank or something like that. So you have all your ears and eyes open looking for those things, but that's not the most dangerous threat inside a prison. I found it was a prison ministry, like the pastors that would come off the street. Like they got these guys who they're real aggressive.
Sexually?
Not aggressive. They'll call you and they say, Scott, come here. And you want me to pray for you, Scott? And they just grab you by the back of your head and say, bow your head. And then he'll start praying, do you want the Lord to come inside you? Do you want to feel it? Yea, though I walk through the valley of darkness, my rod and staff will comfort thee. And you're like, wait a minute.
Damn, they're Catholic then.
Yeah. But the whole time, like, they squeezing your hands. And it's just like, wait, who can I report this to? I just feel assaulted.
That should be in PREA, right?
Right.
That's part of PREA.
Nah, but if anybody's listening, they know when those fellowships come, the bikers, or whoever, like they can't wait to grab on and hold on you and touch on you. And it's just like, you selling yourself off of some hamburgers at Cairo's and it's just...
Cairo's is a prison ministry, for those who don't know. It's like a 3-day event where free people from the outside come in and they shower you with food that you probably haven't eaten in years. So dudes might not even be believers, but for the weekend they are. They'll come and they'll lift their hands and they'll play the part to eat those soft baked cookies.
Damn.
And
hamburgers.
Oof. So wait,
and chips and bags of Lay's and stuff like that. Yeah. Dudes, yeah.
But then you got to get a lot of hugs for those hamburgers.
Yeah, those hamburgers aren't free, chest to chest.
Right. So they call it cop and affection. So there's a lot of cop and affection in Christian ministry. So.
I don't think they. I think some of the older people that come don't quite think like we were thinking. You know what I mean? It's like for them it's natural, and for us we haven't been touched in so long, and we've been in the blocks or we've been in a compound where like dudes mess around all day about stuff like that.
Right. So
our minds are trashed.
Right. So again, and this is like a group of, just imagine a group of like 12 older ex-golf player white men just want to hug and rub on you all day long. And
get some of that dark meat, it sounds like.
you ain't, you can't be hugging me like that, Steve. No, man.
Come on, Steve.
Mr. Steve, Pastor Steve.
They didn't tell Steve about prison culture before he came in.
Right.
Well, so I was, when you mentioned free people, I was all under the impression that free people were just people on the other side. So y'all making it sound like these are volunteer.
There's a lot of in the state prisons for sure. People from the outside in churches and different ministries or different groups.
So it's typically like religious folks?
It's mostly religious.
Free folk.
Yeah, free folks.
So that's what it is. Free folks. That sounds, I said free folks sounds like that is like Mormons, Catholics, free folks.
Free folks.
Right.
Yeah.
Free folks don't want to touch you.
Yeah, they want to touch.
Oh, they won't.
They go into prison.
Then you got the dudes, though. You got the guys that they intentionally go to the groups because there's like one specific lady that they like and they can't wait to get that hug. They might wait months for her to come back, and so when she comes, she don't even know she's a target. She's just up there worshiping God, and they got a dude with a string tied to
hole in the pocket,
a hole in his pocket, and a string tied to his toe, and he's in church doing like this, and nobody knows.
Huh. That's very creative.
It's creative.
He's tugging one out. Listen, nobody even knows. He's just staring at his little imaginary girlfriend. Engineering. They had a guy, I think it was at Rayburn when I was there. They quit manning the guard towers. So there's nobody manning the guard towers anymore. Well, somebody left a mop in the guard tower. So the pole was on the ground. The mop head was, you could see it through the window. One of these sickos, he'd been in the blocks for the longest time. Probably, he hadn't been out in a long time. He came to the yard. He was a what you call him, a master debater the other day.
He was a master puller.
Master puller, dude.
He was bopping his baloney to the mop head.
So look, he thought the last time he was on the compound, they had guards in the tower. So he comes on the compound for being in the blocks for years for just constantly getting caught masturbating. Well,
serial masturbator.
So he comes out on the yard and he thinks in his head that the woman.
It's 2022. There's a woman up there.
Yeah, well, I don't know. This is like 2012,
just slim.
20. He said
she's on that keto diet.
Yeah, so he thought the woman was loving on him, and like she was staring at him from the tower. He jumps in a 50-gallon bucket and starts pulling. So I'm outside on the yard,
just like it.
Yeah, he's ducked down. He's like the guy on Home Improvement, the neighbor Al. You can only see this side of his face. So he's in the can up there, and we all see the guards coming out, and we're like, what the hell is going on? So then, come to find out, I asked one of the inmate counsels, like, dude, what happened? He's in there pulling to the mop. So then when they asked him, like, what was up, man? He's like, man, the free woman loving on me, son. There was no free woman up there. It was a mop. That's how sick dudes get. But solitary confinement is,
dude, hell of a drug.
Yeah, it'll play tricks on you. Anyways, I'm Scott, your host. This is Penitentiaries to Penthouses podcast.
P2P.
On the left of me is Scott.
Best friend in real estate.
Right of me is my man with the plan, Patrick Young.
What's up, boss?
Let me give you all a little story about Patrick. Been knowing Patrick a long time. We were at RCC together, Rayburn Correctional Center, Angie, Louisiana. Patrick was one of the first people that I met. Patrick is a guy that I looked up to, still do to today. But, when you go to prison, and at that point I had made a decision that I wasn't going to be wild anymore, and I was going to try to get involved in education and do things differently. And so, of course, you look for people kind of in that same, or doing better than you, right? So you got guys that have been in education building for years, working on college degrees or vocational stuff, or in these clubs and just doing different stuff. And Patrick was involved in every single thing that the prison had to offer, right? And also, the first couple of days I moved into the dormitory, I didn't realize that he's like a taekwondo expert. He's back there having wrestling matches, like doing backflips
with the priests.
Nah, with other dudes. Not that way though. Not that way. Sorry, Pat. Let me clear that up. He's doing like backflips off the top bunk, landing and doing kicks and stuff like that. So I'm like, damn, who's this old ninja in here, man? I was like, I gotta be on guard. These are ninjas in here, man. So fast forward though, I'm watching Pat move around. He's educated. He's teaching classes. He's mentoring dudes. But the one thing that I used to see Pat doing he was, every night I'd come in and he'd be on his rack, which is his bed, with headphones on. He's doing sign language. And at first, I would make fun of him, like, damn, bro, you over there slinging your hands all around. What are you doing? Da-da-da. But I was super interested, and that was my way of being, like, curious, making fun of him. But seriously, I wanted to be like that. So then there was a deaf population of guys. There was deaf guys at the prison. There was like 10 at the time, 10 deaf guys. And I would watch Pat. Pat would be signing with them, and I would just stare. I'm like, damn, I'd really like to communicate with these guys. So as time went on, and I was like, you know what? I made up my mind. I was like, I want to learn. Told Pat. Pat tossed me an old sign language dictionary. I started studying that. My mom sent me one as well. And I studied secretly for a couple months before I ever even interacted with the deaf guys. And then one day I just built up the courage. I went up to the guys, started signing, and then from then on I was immersed and moved into the dormitory with them. But Pat was the original reason why I even started learning, because I liked the way it looked.
The spark to the fire.
Spark to the fire, yeah. I just enjoyed watching him at night. Even though I made fun of him, I was like, I really wanted to do it, you know?
Man, making fun of him, then ended up doing it.
Yeah. So then we used to be in classes together, like college classes, and we'd be signing back and forth. Everybody would be pissed off. What are they talking about?
The teacher.
Yeah, the teacher.
It's boring, this is.
Boring. Yeah,
right.
But, man, I'm proud of Pat. Pat came home and has done everything that society tells you can't. He's conquered more milestones than anybody that I know that's come home. And I'm going to let him talk about all the great things that he does. But just a guy that you really want to look up to, emulate. He's got a beautiful family, successful career, involved in a lot of nonprofits, involved in a lot of giving back, and just super, extremely proud to call him a friend. But Pat, if you don't mind, just kind of sharing what led you to prison, your upbringing, what led you to prison, and kind of some of your experience in prison, and we'll talk about your success when you come home.
What led me to prison was getting arrested.
Well, duh. but like kind of up to that point.
Man. From New Orleans, my mom had 4 boys. The thing that really shifted for me, you know, graduated high school, went to college, but then my brother got murdered. You know, that really changed my perspective on a lot of different things. To hell with it. And I just wanted to get in trouble. Would find myself arrested for 3 counts of armed robbery. And then at the same time, my daughter was just born. So you have this pressure of trying to raise a kid. Your brother just died.
The world's weighing in on you.
You question everything.
Yeah.
And so chances, taking risks, whatever, you know, it was like my brother got killed, but I died too at the same time. And so I really didn't care about a lot at that time. So judge offered me 65 years as a first offender for armed robbery.
In New Orleans?
Yep. No, Jefferson Parish.
Jefferson Parish.
JP don't play. Was able to get that broken down to 15. So since the 13 years and 9 months in prison. And immediately it was like for a while, you know, at some point, like, I'm going to wake up and all this is fate. It's just, but, you know, I really found from the beginning that I was allergic to prison. That's what I found out. Like, this is not for me. So I spent pretty much every day figuring out what can I do the moment I got out. And so I would have all these ideas. I would do a lot of writing. And a lot of stuff in prison was practice. So when I get home, like, I know what to do, where to go, get started. So that was really my mantra to myself. There's this book, The Count of Monte Cristo. Mm-hmm. And the guy is like, you know, he comes in one way, but when he leaves, he has this vision of, I can recreate myself and be something better than what I came in. And that was, you know, that book meant a lot to me because it was like, okay, I can come out of this way better and I can create a new narrative, you know. And so it really was that process of change that I really appreciate having that period. And I think that everybody has a moment where they have to make a shift. You don't always have to go to prison, but there's a shift moment that comes when you decide, you know, I can control my destiny. I can change my trajectory. I can move a different way.
The fork in the road.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, when you landed in the parish prison and you were going to court and they handed down that sentence, did you have an immediate change or did it take time? Where was the shift in that process?
Again, in that point, I was still
wild.
I was still daydreaming. I thought because, you know, when you take a plea, the DA is going to come and say, hey, we have offer. And so when they offered 65, they was like that they're offering 65. So I'm thinking, 65 months. Oh, you know, it's 5 years. And okay, right? I didn't really realize that armed robbery carried 10 to 99. So I was like, no, it's years. And so I had to like, wait a minute.
Oh shit!
Wait a minute.
You had to digest those numbers.
I didn't kill nobody. I didn't mean like.
That's when the air came out of your lungs. When they told you that.
But you really don't. It really doesn't hit you until you are. Even when I was sentenced and they did the 15 years, when they send you a new rap sheet, and then you get shipped out. And so when you're on that bus ride to Hunts from JP,
HRDC,
you just have your paperwork with you, and you constantly looking at like this date, right? And this date was like 2012, and it's like 19. At the time, it was 1998. It doesn't even seem like
that's forever.
Like it's like.
At that time, you couldn't even get good time on that type of 85%
Couldn't get good
charge.
time, anything and stuff like that. So you like, man. And I always had this belief, well, something's gonna change. I'm gonna get out early. Something like this is not. Nah, I did that whole 13-9, you know, and but it was a lot of growth in that time too. So I mean, it helped a lot for me to make the transition to where I'm at now. And I still, a lot of things that I do now is actually reflective of I never want to go through that.
Yeah.
What type of stuff did you experience in prison that A, people shouldn't have to go through, and then B, that really impacted you, whether it's just the way the staff treats you, things that you saw, things that really affected you, or maybe even still affect you to today?
Outside of the accommodations, of course.
I think the whole system in itself has never been corrected. You put something, I mean, if we have a business, you reevaluate your business to see if it's effective or not. No one has ever did a test to see if prison actually is effective or ineffective. So when you look at the process of it, you're processing like cattle, right? You're tagged with a number, right? And then you're forced in line, you're shaved, your uniform. It's almost like putting you in a concentration camp.
Right.
To follow orders that has nothing to do with corrections. There's no real behavior modification other than punishment, right? And so punishment without education is just punishment.
Right.
And so for me, like really going through that whole process, like I would question so much. Like this doesn't make sense to me. And I'm one of those people, I play chess.
He's a chess fanatic.
You played before?
Everybody who comes home who played chess in prison, they call Pat, "What's having a little round, buddy?"
You gotta get some you know, get some.
I wasn't smart enough for chess, man. I like checkers.
Yeah, but it's just like you. So this is I got some Scott stories too. I'm gonna save those for later. But it really was just like I felt that sometimes like I went back in history, like this is a slavery experience.
Yeah,
like you really seen.
Fat came on here the other day, so did Kiana, and they both talked about how when they was at Angola, Fat got out in the field and they was like telling him to pick cotton,
right?
And he didn't, of course. Kiana was like, "You're picking cotton, you're gonna ride like Fat." But I mean, like there's certain respects of prison that are super comparable.
That parallel.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole process of it, just the idea that you're forced to work in the field with a guy on a gun and on a horse, right? You know, and you're singing these spirituals and all this, like, no. Look, time warped me back to where I'm from. Like
waiting in the water.
They sing like that, or is that?
They do. They got a song. Ain't gonna do no more wrong. I can't sing it, but I just remember these.
They used to sing them on the bus on the way to the penitentiary.
So,
they used to have at least one dude that had a voice. The whole
yeah.
bus would be zooming, singing.
And so, so the shift was really like medical. So this other thing, they do a lot of evaluation of you coming in. So you go to classification, they do a tape test, they do a medical test, you know.
Like a combine, but for prison?
Right, exactly. And then, but they don't do one when you're released. So why not evaluate when you release to know if
before and after
results. To show that you've improved since you left. So you don't know if you're leaving the prison better or worse.
Exactly.
Right, and so many times what you will find is a lot of people leave worse than what they came in because of the structure, the medication they put you on, you know, the system in itself of really dehumanizing you. You have people who really don't have a good education going in. So when they put you in some of these constructs, you're like a kid throwing temper tantrums who don't understand why you're being put in a closet, but you have to be in this closet. And so it's a lot of things that really just tear you down, just mentally, emotionally, psychologically. So, yeah, you can get lost real quick, and many people do.
And all, to piggyback on that, a large majority of prison staff, they speak to you condescendingly. They look down on you. They behave like they're better than you. And a lot of their mission, some of them, is to make sure your life is living hell. And I'll give you some examples, and I'm sure Pat has a bunch. They will sell you 2 razors on the store and then come and shake your locker down and take a razor because you're only allowed to have one, and then write you up and punish you. That's one of 1,000 things that I can think of. That's the most silliest that I can think of.
So they sell you a 2-pack, then bust you for having 2?
Or you go to the blocks for having too many pens.
Well, the fact that it's illegal for someone to help you with your law work is a rule. So if let's say Scott can't read and I can read, I know law, but I'm not an inmate counselor. That's not my job. But if I'm in the dorm and I'm helping him with his law, that's a write-up because you're not supposed to help. Like, they don't want you to
They don't want you to go home.
Right. And so, but I understand it from a different perspective now that this is prison enterprise. They're trying to keep their business.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
we need their employees.
If you have an enterprise or a business, you have to have customers. So as long as you have a customer base, which are inmates,
okay,
then you have to keep that thing going on. And so some of the rules and things that are in place, it makes a lot of sense now. And I tell people, you know, Louisiana is 50th in education, so it's the stupidest state. So when you bring logic to the stupidest state, it don't.
It's like watching one of those old school movies where they're like, burn the witches, you know, and just the townspeople just aren't as educated as you'd like them to be.
And so I remember one time when they had they shut the yard down. It was called a buck, right? So for like every day they were serving liver and beans.
Shout out.
Just liver and beans like every day. And it got to the point to where people was like, you know what, we're gonna buck. We're gonna shut it down till we get better food. So bucking means we're not gonna go to work.
We're not going to work. We're not going to school.
We're not doing nothing. Just
nothing.
Sit in.
Call the trucks. Yeah, sit in, right?
It's solidarity.
Right? And so for the 3 days into the buck, now we have the people from Baton Rouge coming. Like, all right, we got some action. So they sent a representative from each dorm to, you know, talk and see what we can negotiate. The negotiation, the first thing they said was, look, we want fried chicken. And then the other thing was you have an option between air conditioning or 2 televisions.
They picked TVs.
And they picked 2 televisions, one for sports, one for movies, and fried chicken.
Is that how the 2 TVs got in each?
That's how the 2 TVs. That's how we got. It was either you're gonna get 2 televisions.
They set up like this.
Yeah, or you can get air conditioning in a dorm.
Oh man.
And they chose the 2 televisions.
And let me tell y'all something about. I don't know how it is in other states. You've traveled to a few more prisons out of state than I have. In Louisiana, if you're in a state penitentiary, 0 air conditioning. In the summer, like right now, hot as hell as it is, at night, you'll start sweating. So the remedy is you go to the bathroom, you wet your sheets, and you sleep on the floor, the concrete floor, because there is no air conditioning, and it is hot as hell in there.
Oh, wet sheets, cold concrete.
Or you get a bed by the fan.
Or you get a bed. Now, see, that is for special guys. That's for the, you know, the
Big
elite.
Larry?
Yeah,
Big
guys
Larry
like Big
got
Larry and Big Pat. But
okay, Pat with his taekwondo and his fan.
Before I left, I was probably about 6 beds down from the fan.
Okay, so you felt it a
so
little bit.
I got after it was like the mountains. You know what I'm saying? Like the breeze.
Well, you got to start at the top bunk and work your way down.
Yeah. So the top bunks are all the way in the back. So I was originally on the top bunk, and then I kept moving up, and I was about the 6th bed. The fan was over there, and so I would catch the gust off the 6 bellies or the 5 bellies, and then it would hit me.
Wait, so it'd be somebody would get called out, then it's like
you just take racks. So if you're cool with the guards, somebody leaves, hey man, let me get that rack. You hurry up and move your stuff. Ain't nothing happening that day for you either because you're sitting in there and you're waiting for that son of a gun to leave so you can hurry up. Everything's packed and you just go over and move your stuff.
All right, where were we?
And that's the pettiness of it all.
Nah, man, I understand that. No, I speak that language. I'd be watching, like patting this fan. I'm trying to get that number 2 bunk.
Anyway, so where were we at, Pat?
Nah, it's just like some of the prison politics that you learn. And one of the things that we did was really invest in programming. So when I first got there, they had this club called the JCs. And so the JCs initially was like, you see these guys leave the prison and then get to go out and mentor at the schools and stuff like that. And I'm like, I want to do that. And I remember they had a guy named James Cardat. And he was like, well, we really don't let black dudes in the thing. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Wait, in JC?
In JC.
JC's white onlys.
And so, yeah, it was at Rayburn.
No way.
Yes. So
because when I was there, it was all black dudes and like maybe one white guy.
I was the Jackie Robinson.
Thank you. Hey, thanks, Pat. Thanks, Pat.
And so, but nah, it really was like, they have this Marxism, have and have-nots, right? But you do have a racial element to certain stuff. And it was like, nah, you're not going to come mess this up. This is our club. And me and James, I worked for...
Wait, who? James who?
James Cardat.
I don't know.
Is that what JC stand for?
Nah, it's Junior Chamber of Commerce. Okay. It's like a business club and everything.
There was a big rivalry between the Toastmasters
and JC.
Yeah.
And so you
was
sell...
it like white and black or was it...
No, it's just like inmate clubs, right? Like Zulu Rex, something like that, right? But you can sell food to the compound. You have congregation nights. It's just a fellowship type organization that's all ran by inmates. And so from that, though, I learned that there's a lot of power and control in those organizations, too, because you can determine, what's happening and what's not happening. So having access to, we started the Spanish club. We started the law library. We started the sign language club. We were able to bring food to the compound, so like pizza, Popeyes, crawfish. Actually, like to tell people I started Instagram.
Hell yeah.
Because
JPay?
No, but when you look at, we used to do these DVDs on video.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And this was like, again, this is like 2000, 2001, where you could send a DVD home with your video and everything, sending your people a note from prison. Like, that wasn't happening, right? Pictures, we would take pictures and write on pictures and send those in letters and stuff like that. Like, a lot of this stuff that you see happening in the digital world, we kind of was doing way back then.
That's how I used to get out there. There's some videos of me doing sign language floating around the interwebs, but I used to go in there and it was around Christmas time, and I would get them to play Christmas music. And I would sign it, and then I would send it out to the world, to whoever I was talking to at the time, or my family or whatever. But yeah, that was a great way, because other than that, the only thing that you were usually able to get was like a picture from the yard.
Yeah, or
it was old penitentiary post too. It was one of these.
Right. So it was just fun, and I always like to push the envelope in there. Like, I would try to bring the video camcorder down, watch the games, and act like we ESPN, do the DJ booths. We would bring DJs on the weekends.
Hell yeah.
That's right.
We started showing, we was the first ones to start renting movies, so we would rent like DVDs to show throughout the compound so that people can watch movies and stuff. Like,
on y'all's 2 new TVs, by the way.
Yeah, so it really was like, how much can you get away with?
Yeah.
And then in 2006. Yeah, 2006. No, that was before that. It was 2003. I got locked up for having too much influence over the inmate population.
Yeah,
so I spent
growing too strong.
So they wanted to say I had an improper relationship with a guard or whatever, but it just was like.
Did you?
What happened was.
What had happened was.
My boy.
What happened was though. No, it's just.
Keep it thorough.
We had a shift in people getting enrolled in school, people going to the law library, people getting involved in some of these programs, and they had to break it up. And I feel like, yeah, there was some people who wanted to see you do well, but there are other people like, nah, they don't like you really thriving in that type of environment because you can adjust no matter how harsh it is. I'm still gonna make a way for myself. And
that was what I was trying to get at earlier. There were a lot of guards, and before I say this, there are some guards from Rayburn that I consider great people, and I'm not speaking towards them, but there's a large consensus in the prison system that if you're more educated than them, they hate you. If you show any sense of self-confidence, they hate you. If you're a good-looking person, they hate you. If you
got family.
I mean, if you have anything other than just being a peon underneath him who just obeys every command, they hate you. So I can see what Pat's talking about. They would probably try to they would break that up should everybody start getting educated.
They're like, these people might start ordering more than 2 TVs and fried chicken next time. We need to shut this shit down.
Well, it's funny because I think around the time they had the movie Malcolm X, and when they shoot Malcolm and got all the people following him and doing this, so the JCs went from like 7 people to like over 60 people.
Oh,
right? And then you got to be a part of the organization, you had to go to business class, you had to learn certain stuff. We were organized, we were traveling to what other institutions, we had speech and debate tournaments. We win in all these tournaments and stuff, and so it was like, no.
Shut it down.
No. And then I think that also they wanted to figure out how they can get in on, some of the money we were raising.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So it just was like, nah, something's not right. We're going to shut it down.
How'd that make you feel though? Like whenever did you realize what was happening while it was happening?
Actually, it just made me go harder.
Yeah.
Like I just really would find ways to just push the envelope, and even sign language. I only wanted to learn sign language because I didn't want to get handcuffed. If you're the interpreter, they can't handcuff you. Right?
Smart.
So it's just
smart.
It was just a way for me to really try to push the stuff that I was thinking to see if I could make it happen. And like Scott said, everybody's not there just to punish you. They have a lot of administration that really just came to do their job. Mm-hmm. And I respected those people better than anybody else because it wasn't biased. I'm just here to do my job, do this and do like that. But they got some people that just want to do the most. The same thing we see with police now. It's not that all police are bad or all police are racist, but they got some people that just do the most.
Just want to knock you down, kind of.
Yeah, and so you experience it, whether you incarcerated or not. It's just that if people just come with the same mindset of, hey, listen, this is what I'm obligated to do, this is what I'm going to do, I think we'll all be better off. But it was like some people in there just want to take it a whole nother notch, like, I'm the officer, right? And it's just, and what I found out was that they're more institutionalized than the inmate.
Right.
Like, they playing prison games. They hiding shanks.
Yeah, and they're addicted to state trays.
Right, they stealing food.
I woke up one time.
State trays?
No. Yeah, like food. Like
okay.
State trays, like on a plate and stuff.
Okay.
Like that. They eat 3 food meals a day too. And they get addicted to that because they don't have to pay no money for it. I woke up one time, and I slept in this dorm close to the guard shack or with the pod or whatever it was. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and I had a gay guy sleeping next to me. His name was Gia.
What up, Gia?
And
sleeping next to you.
Yeah, that was a precarious situation. It didn't last long because they rolled him out. But so I wake up and I look up. I wake up and I open my eyes and the guy doesn't see me and he's sucking his pen. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? It's 2:00 in the morning. So then I kind of rolled over. I look. There's a guard just sitting with his legs up, and he's watching it like he's being entertained, like it was,
porn
strip club. Yeah, like, I mean, I'm like, oh, this
Pink
is
Valley.
crazy. Yeah, I was blown away. Angrily, I hopped up out my bed and went to the bathroom, and like at that point, I was so close to going home. Like I didn't want to A, beat the dude up, or C, get rolled to the cell blocks and lose the good time that I was earning. But some of those guards, they get in relationships with these guys.
Because you feel like when you see they spend so much time at this institution, they don't have time with their families, they don't have time to build other relationships.
Work wife.
Right. And so they really get a fetish for being in this place. And so it's a power struggle. It can be an addiction. I mean, there's not a lot of therapy given, from the inmates up to the guards. So you don't know what they're dealing with coming to work. Like some of their happiest moments is probably talking to a guy on the yard, because when you go home, nobody talks to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it has a lot of things to it. But overall, like I said, I think the system needs to be reevaluated, because we have to look at what's coming in and are we putting out a better product. And if the people we're not putting out are better than when they came in, then that system is wrong.
Oh, by the way, that same guard that I was talking about, I think is in prison now. Got busted with some pounds in Louisiana not too long ago. So, shout out. Shout out to you, buddy.
Hope you're watching the pod. Don't forget to subscribe and like.
What year did you go home, Pat?
2012.
2012. Man, I would honestly admit I was so sad when you left. You get close to certain people in there, especially people that you look up to, and I remember the feeling of disappointment. Like, dang. Because you only have maybe one or two people that you actually like being around on a regular basis, people that feed you, encourage you. Pat was one of those guys, so he gets to leave. He goes to work release. I'm like, damn, I'm stuck here. And I only got a couple dudes left that I actually consider to be good people. Or people, not that there weren't a lot of good people that I would care to hang around with, right? And learn something from, and who had what I looked up to. So then Pat leaves, and I'm grinding hard at the sign language thing and working on enhancing my skills and interpreting at the prison, and then about a year and a half later, I get out, but Pat's already doing his thing. So talk about how your transition was from.
What was it like when you first got out? Whenever the gates, the doors open.
You were at work release though, weren't you?
I was at work release, so yeah, I went to work release in Lake Charles. I went out there honestly because I finished welding, and I wanted to get a job. In Lake Charles, you had a lot of jobs you get in welding, so you can make a lot of money immediately.
Plants.
But there was a moratorium on the Gulf, so again, having those additional skills, I also had a culinary certification, so I wound up working at this little restaurant. At the restaurant, I wound up, one day a lady came in, her daughter was deaf, and they're trying to order and stuff like that. I'm the cook, but I turn around, I'm signing in with the lady and stuff like that, and she is like just amazed, right? The little girl is ecstatic now, because if there's a deaf person that finds somebody that can communicate with, it's an immediate attachment, right? She worked in New Orleans for the Jazz Fest, and she was like, listen, when you come, I told her where I was and what time. She said, well, look, come and you can be an interpreter at Jazz Fest. And I wind up actually leaving and enough time around where I could work as a sign language interpreter.
You was with Denise? Denise Crochet?
No. Trying to think of her name right now, but she was with the foundation for the Jazz and Heritage Festival.
I gotcha.
But she was just so excited, and then I started doing that. And
before you get into that, briefly share all the certifications and stuff that you got. Well, I really wanted you to hone in on that, but all the college and the VOTEC and all the stuff that you acquired while you were in prison to prepare you for when you came home.
Just everything. I mean, for me, I think the welding was good. The sign language was good. Taking Spanish, business classes or whatever. But the most thing I did, and still to this day, like I would try to do like 2 to 3 books a week.
Mm-hmm.
So just anything I could read, 2 to 3 books a week was constantly. If anybody knew me, they knew 2 things. I either had a book, I had some music.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was just my thing, just taking it all in.
Didn't you do the college program though?
I did the college program. I didn't get the associates because I left right before. But one of the things I read though was there's this book called Outliers.
Yeah.
And he talks about 10,000 hours, right? And so that's what I was just all these hours and hours on preparation on everything. And so when you are released, that was my thing. Like I got 50 arrows I can shoot. One of them gonna land. And I taught GED, I taught high set, I taught adult education while I was inside. So one of my first jobs was, 1, a community organizer, and then 2, I was adult educator for Urban League. And from the Urban League, I became the director of education at Job 1. From there, I transitioned to a training director for Strive New York, launched a new program in New Orleans. So
tell about Strive a little bit. That's a interesting, great, and I think even Fat would get. He's a personal testimony. Fat went through the program and he talked about that in his podcast. But talk about Strive a little bit.
So Strive was out of New York. They started this. So Mayor Landrieu in his second term decided that there was a report by Loyola University that said 52% of African American men were unemployed in the city of New Orleans. But we had over $3 billion in job opportunities. We had the new airport that was building. Sewage and Water Board had some Katrina money that they still had to get spent on hiring. And so all these vacancies, but we have this 52% unemployed rate. So it was like, how do you marry the two? So they needed a training provider that can deliver the personnel to the employer. So we started this training program, Strive. Within 3 years, 890 people employed, 674 of them incarcerated. Like we were able to do immediately what a lot of people say couldn't be done. Working with Strive, by being a national organization, I was able to travel internationally. I went to Strive London and became the training manager over 4 centers: Urban League, TCA, Job 1, and Goodwill with the Business Alliance. And then from there, I shifted to my role now as the first director of gun violence prevention for the mayor's office.
Damn.
Big dough.
And so just this year, though, too, I released my first book.
Okay.
It's called Way Up Economic Development.
It's out?
Mm-hmm. Way Up Economic Development Post-Incarceration. And here's the thing. I released it on 2/22/22, right? If you add those numbers up, it's 10. It marks 10 years I've been released.
Oh.
So, and another thing, my brother died when he was 22. So it had a lot of
numbers,
revelations and meanings to me, and, you learn, it's just, if anything, the book is really about prison and poverty and show how many
Where can people buy it?
Everywhere. Amazon, Barnes and Noble.
Click on the link below.
Right.
Yeah. And so, but the more, what you think about is that it's economics that drives this prison industry. And if economics is driving you in, you need economics to drive you out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a parallel between prison and poverty, and most people are in prison because of poverty. And so when you get out of prison, it's not just getting out the institution. You got to get out of poverty. You got to find a way up, not just a way out. But there's a path that there's a process you have to take. Someone with a conviction can't just go into a bank and just get a loan.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just acquire property. There's a lot of barriers that are put in place. You may have to get this in your girl name. Your mama have to co-sign on this. But there are some methods that you can learn that can improve your standing while you're incarcerated. So when you do get out, you can have a better plan on how to prosper. A lot of times we don't take that information until it's too late. And so in the military, there's a version of this called TED, Transition Economic Development. So no matter which branch of military you're in, you have to take this program. How to transition, but economic development. Veterans are your number one consumer base of home ownership. Why? Because they learn economic development. People who are formerly incarcerated represent less than 1% of the home buyer market. Why? Because they don't understand economic development. And so for me, the book really is a guide that I think that every institution should have, a person should have. Because we have to learn. This is a capital society. We have to learn money and how to manage it properly. And that was just my thing, and just how we can continue to build and evolve and keep pushing the envelope to find a way up, not just a way out.
Did you have to go to prison do you have to be someone that just coming out of prison to enjoy the book or use its principles?
No, because I feel like people know they're in prison just because they see the bars. Some people are in prison and they really don't know. They're locked in a bad relationship. They're locked into alcohol. They're locked into drugs. They're locked into trauma, right? And as long as that's holding you hostage, you're incarcerated to whatever that belief is.
Damn.
This book really, though, is if you're struggling with money and you're trying to figure out, like, why I'm not getting ahead. Like, I'm making money, but I'm still paycheck to paycheck, right? It's you finding a way up, not just a way out, because you're locked in poverty. Poverty affects all of us in some form or matter, so...
I'm going to pick that book up. First book in the P2P podcast book club. There we go.
That's it. So tell us about Strive. I mean,
you already covered Strive.
The nonprofit. Dang.
Oh, Sharp.
Sharp men. Nola.
That's the one where all the, okay.
Yeah. So, working for Strive, helping people get jobs. We've seen a lot of guys come home. They're making the transition. But the problem for most guys, in Louisiana, period, is when it's time for an interview, what you're going to wear. Dress to Success has been around for over 25 years all across this country, but there's no version for men. And so in Louisiana, I actually created the first version called Sharp, which provides professional attire for men to overcome barriers to employment. So Goodwill is nice, but if you don't have the money, you can't even get you a suit from Goodwill.
Right.
And sometimes churches may have clothing drives, but again, it's not complete. Sharp was really designed for people to look sharp, think sharp, and stay sharp. It came from the Bible quote, where as a man sharpens himself, so sharpens another. We have to look out for one another, even as men. We have to take the ego off, take the macho-ness off, and just look at, how can I improve my brother, right? Iron sharpen iron. If he's sharp and I'm sharp, all our families will be on point. But many times you find yourself, I'm the iron, you're the wood. So I can sharpen the wood, but the wood does nothing to me, right? Or I'm sharp and you're plastic. The plastic does nothing for me. But one thing about Scott is that Scott is always iron. Every time I see Scott, he's always pushing. And we don't have to talk all the time, but he knows that's what we were inside. Like, I'm not just going to just do the same thing. We have to improve. That's what my Instagram name is Raise Your Bar, so you can keep constantly raising your bar.
Hashtag.
I'm not worrying about like what you have, but yours personal. It's a personal pronoun, right? So I'm raising my bar.
Yeah.
And if you like it, you can raise yours too, right? And that's the thing. The camaraderie we have isn't just because we was locked up, but because we have this ambition to do better, right? And so when I'm doing this, I'll celebrate this. I'll see Scott celebrate that, and I'm a root for him, and he's gonna root for me because that's how we win.
Iron sharpens iron, yeah.
And
anytime Pat calls and says he has something going on, if I have something to do, I usually drop it, and if I don't have something to do, I'm still going, and that's just simply because I believe in the mission, right? And I support everybody who's been through our situation. When they're doing good stuff, when they're giving back, when they're promoting themselves, whatever the case is, because, everybody does a good job of beating us down, right? So it's up to us to come together and support each other because nobody else really does, right? The community's not going to do it until they catch a wave. Right. It's got to be a wave.
What do you mean, like a movement kind of situation?
Yeah, so like, for example, Pat's at a place right now where he's got a large following and people are going to gravitate towards him because he's worked his ass off building his life,
personal brand,
and his brand. So people are jumping on, but in the beginning, like all of us, we're our only supporters.
Just some badass inmates who knows
because
Taekwondo and Spanish.
Most people look at us and they expect us to go back to prison, so they're kind of waiting. So they don't necessarily want to attach themselves to guys like us. But then after you persevere and push through for so long, especially like Pat has, people ain't got no choice but to hop on. You know what I mean? Because good stuff is about to happen. And it is happening, so people are gravitating towards that, and they want to be a part of that.
And we've spoken about this several times, but everybody likes a success story, but everybody loves a comeback story too. So you're gonna have your haters, regardless if you went to the penitentiary or not. You do have, I would say, Jamie and I were talking about this, but you have like this, not aroma, but you have this barrier to overcome with that, title of being formerly incarcerated. But man, whenever you'll deal with that, and then whenever people start to see the rise of the sun, everybody wants to get sunbathed. You know what I mean? They want to be a part of it.
Well, the part of that's good though and bad is that they want to see you do well. They just don't want to see you do better than them. And so the shift is that they love to build you up, and then they also love to tear you down.
Yeah.
And so
looking for a reason sometimes.
Looking for a reason, and it's just like, if you grow up with some kids, right, and you went to high school even before prison, let's just say you grow up with some people and I'm going to be a professional basketball player. Come on, man, stop it. Like, you can't make it. Look at all the other people that say they want to be a basketball player and they never make it, right? But then you fast forward 10 years and that person is actually playing, right? Now they're like, I always told him he could do it and all this type of stuff here, whatever. Nah, you was just waiting to see. And so sometimes when you have somebody in prison that's saying, no, like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, right? Like, nah, look at all the people that didn't make it, right? And so when you do well, it's like, well, they're only doing that because of this, or you have to have an excuse. It's your drive and ambition to be better can't be enough. Like, you have to have, his mama helped him, or his girl did
like
this.
a little wrench or something
right.
in the spoke or something. There has to be
So they have to be something, like
basketball player. Well, he's not Michael Jordan, or
right.
something like that.
And so it's just your drive, man. Like,
let me tell you how much people gravitate to Pat. So I'm scrolling on Facebook one day around Thanksgiving time, and I see Pat, and I see Kevin Hart, and I see Pat, and I see Kevin Hart. And I said, no, my boy, where's he living?
Passing out turkeys or something?
No, eating Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, he's at the dinner table.
Dinner table. So he ain't gonna talk about it, but I'm gonna talk about it. Pat has a relationship with the man, and in fact, I think if I'm not mistaken, he was part of the at least helping get
Sharp started. My initial sponsor, yeah.
Yeah. So Pat's such a light that celebrities even jump on it. And one thing that you didn't mention is that you're doing work with Van Jones right now, correct?
Yeah, well, just doing some training sometimes with his Dream Corps Corporation.
Who's Van Jones?
Just, again, somebody that's really just trying to push the movement around, giving people opportunities outside of prison.
Mm-hmm. What's Van Jones is an anchor somewhere though, right?
I used to work for CNN, but now he's over Dream Corps, and so there's Dream Tech, Dream Green, and Justice for All.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, so things are happening. The pendulum is swinging. The shift is turning, and like I said, I'm proud of all the work that you've done since you come home. And there's way more coming down the pipeline that the world don't even know about.
What was the name of that book again?
It's called A Way Up, Economic Development Post-Incarceration. Is the book. You can get the workbook too.
Oh, there's a workbook too.
Yeah, so
that's fun. That's good.
Yeah.
What about what's the website for Sharp Nola?
So sharpman.org, and then also I do consulting. So it's raiseyourbarllc.org. So
what kind of consulting services can you provide, Pat?
So I do a lot of training and development. The main thing for professionals is results. So it's RBA training, result-based accountability.
Yep.
Where we, really hone in on driving business to results. A lot of people could say, I've been working for 10 years, but have you been effective? Have you really produced the results that you need to see? And so like you got guys who will be like, I've been working out for 5 years, but I've been a trainer for 20 years, right, or whatever, but there's no results behind it. Business first should be results driven, right? Some people may say, I want to get in real estate. Oh, I got a real estate license. Okay, well, how many homes have you sold? Like, what have you done? Like, I haven't done any, but I got a real estate. Like, no. Like,
I've been an agent for 30 years. It's
so,
like, all right, well, a chair's been a chair for 30 years. You know what I mean? It hasn't done shit.
And so the training is outcomes based. Like, let's not talk about what we want to do. Let's talk about how much we are doing.
That's right.
And so that's the training, really. Result-based accountability.
Well, you got that from the business courses that you learned, I'm assuming, and just over time, just kind of created.
Well, you went to school when you came home.
I went all over, everywhere, but recently I just completed the Kellogg Fellowship. So out of 800 people, 80 people were picked. I was one from New Orleans that was picked apart to be a Kellogg Fellow.
And what is Kellogg?
Kellogg,
not the cereal.
The Kellogg Foundation Community Leadership Network. So
is the tiger a mascot? No. Okay.
Nah, it's good, but it's just, Kellogg Foundation helps many people across the country, nonprofits, and to be chosen as one of its leaders and represent that brand is big.
Hell yeah.
And what kind of work were y'all doing?
So it's really building partnerships and collaborations across the country. They tell you look local, but then global. So what can you do locally that can affect the world? And so out of that, actually, the process and thinking behind my book came. So my gift to myself as finishing that fellowship was to produce this material that's local, but it can affect everyone globally.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
World changer.
What's the one thing you can do to change the world? He made a book. But I like the workbook, man. I like to participate in it, so that's great.
And last thing, the work that you're doing with the city of New Orleans to combat gun violence. You want to share about that just a little bit? Just kind of highlight the work that y'all are doing.
Yeah, I mean,
because we know dang well that the news does a great job of talking about all the gun violence, but they don't talk about the people behind the scenes trying to curb it. So let's talk about it.
It's a learning, and I really appreciate first acknowledge the mayor for giving me the opportunity, who faces a lot of criticism, but she's a trailblazer. She's doing things that's never been done, like creating this Office of Gun Violence Prevention. New Orleans has been leading top 5 city in violence for the last 40 years. We've had over 145 murders for the last 30 years. So how do you address it if you never address it? And so she's the first mayor that said, you know what, instead of just keep pushing program to the mayor and next person that comes in, we start a new program. So we used to have NOLA for life, and now we have cure violence and ceasefire. No, this needs to be a specific office where we really try to figure out what's happening and how we can stop it from continuing to happen. Surprisingly to know, in 1996, Congress passed what was called the Dickey Amendment, which didn't allow...
The Dickey?
The Dickey Amendment,
okay,
which didn't allow federal gun research. So from then to now, there's been no federal gun research on gun violence. So pre-Katrina, post-Katrina, trying to figure out, well, why is all this violence happening in New Orleans? Why is all this shooting? There is no data to show what's been happening.
What's your personal opinion?
I mean, it's crazy because we can say how many people have died, but we've never identified what were the social causes. You have a lot of people who say, oh, it's education. Oh, it's the parents. Oh, it's this. But if you never study it,
how you know?
Then how do you know?
Right.
And so...
baseless opinions is what you're saying.
So really, that's what and I'm proud to say, like, right now we've partnered with Tulane University to have the first policy lab. So
shout out Green Wave.
Yep. So we'll be able to produce that information, like, in the beginning of next year, have the first gun violence report on New Orleans.
Now, is that the first gun violence report in the country or just New Orleans?
Just New Orleans. But what you find right now is that across the country, gun violence is up. Mm-hmm. Everybody's scrambling, trying to figure out what's happening, why it's happening. But again, you bring it back to the Dickey Amendment and figure out, we've never studied this. All these mass shootings, all these school shootings, we've never studied, like, what are the causes behind it? And so now we're in a state, Biden passed this year, last year, June 21, CVIs, Community Violence Intervention Programs, where now we're looking into more ways we can intervene in gun violence. I started the first Barbers and Beauticians Collective Fellowship, which is a way for barbers and beauticians to get engaged, to de-escalate violence, become peace ambassadors community.
Because they're pillars of the community. Right. Everybody needs a haircut.
Everybody.
Don't matter whether you're a D-boy, a square, a city employee, or a government official, you're going to get your hair did. I don't usually have that problem, but my beard, I do go get that done.
We just got to find ways, man, that's unconventional, that can speak peace to everything. And even like our relationship, we have to find where we can humanize one another to where it's not racial. Right, where we just want to see each other do better and win. That's a lot of things. Like even when Scott and I used to be in a dorm, like he talks about the MMA matches that we used to have in the back or whatever, right? But at the same time, it wasn't a white or black thing. It boiled down to I'm a man, he's a man, he has a family, I have a family. We just want to see each other do well. Everybody can't see through that lens. Right? Because they get stuck in the skin, right? And so you have to go beyond that and look at the person's character, their attitude, and just their outlook on life, man. Like, they got some people that just care, and we stopped caring about each other a long time ago. And we just got to bring that back. And the moment we bring that back, people talk about bringing church and schools and just whatever party you're affiliated with, this or that. No, we start caring about the little things, the big things, it'll take over, and just piece by piece, we'll have a better outlook if we can teach our kids to care. Effect. Right, teach our kids to care, guards care, police to care. Like, people just don't care, and when you don't care, you care less. So that's what we see a lot, throwing trash or wanting to fight and do all these things. Like, why we want to destroy each other? Or if I get upset with you, my first impulse shouldn't be, I need to shoot you. Kids have that, that's what they're faced with. And then it's amplified through social media, right? And so what we see on social media is so many people who just don't care. Like, they have to make themselves up to look a certain way. Right? And so, now, man, I'm just blessed to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. Anytime you guys want me to come here,
Anytime.
But I think it speaks to the ambition of you can move from the prison to the penthouse, but you can own both, right? It's not just moving, it's owning it as well, and we can own, if we can own that prison, whether you're locked up or not, you can own the outside of building your own penthouse, in which you live, so.
That's right.
I'm with it.
Pat, leave us with one prophetic statement.
One of my favorite, I'll give you this one. This is one of my favorite quotes. A man doesn't enter the same river twice. He's not the same man. He's not the same river. Right? And so the river keeps flowing. So no matter what part you go in, and you'll never step in that same place twice. Don't never let anyone tell you that you can't change. Right? And so that's what it is all about, man. So
my boy.
If change doesn't stay the same, then why should you? So.
Hey, Pat's also a professional basketball player.
Not no more.
That boy used to be on the yard hooping.
No, but I like.
And he used to have his socks all the way up.
Oh, listen.
Some Bobby Jackson
New
socks?
Balance.
Listen. I was listening.
No, you didn't have New Balance, did you? You had the J's?
I had the J's.
I know you did.
J's.
I appreciate you, buddy.
I appreciate y'all, man. And just keep whatever we could do to support, man. I'm always there. Just call me.
Thank you so much, man. This was awesome.
Thank you.